Today, we are tearing down a massive financial illusion. We're going to break down exactly why hitting average financial milestones is actually a mathematically engineered trap. Seriously, if you think being on par with everyone else means you're completely safe, well, you really need to hear this data. Let's just get right into it. I want to kick things off by hitting you with this massive number, $364,000. According to the Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances, that is the median net worth for an American household in their early 60s. And, on the surface, that looks like a really solid win. If you're hitting that number, you probably feel like you're doing totally fine. You're on track, maybe even feeling a little ahead of the pack. Well, let's dive into this because that warm, fuzzy feeling of safety, yeah, it's a complete illusion. The reality we're unpacking today is that average is quite literally a trap. That $364,000 is actually one of the most misleading statistics in all of personal finance. Today, we're using hard data to completely shatter that illusion and show you exactly why aiming for average leaves you wildly unprepared for the future. To really wrap our heads around how this trap works, we need to ground this intimidating census and Federal Reserve data into a highly relatable human experience. So let's introduce Ryan. Now, Ryan isn't a real guy, but every single number attached to him is completely real. He represents the statistical median American household. Basically, half of all households do worse than Ryan, and half do better. He didn't forget to save. He isn't irresponsible. Actually, Ryan is doing everything exactly right by the standard metrics society gives us. And that is exactly why his story matters to us. Because if Ryan isn't okay, being average absolutely isn't a safe place to stand. So here's the very first major disconnect we have to address: net worth versus actual retirement income. When you see Ryan's $364,000 net worth, it looks like a secure 25-year cushion on paper. But as we know, net worth does not equal liquid, spendable cash in retirement. What's really fascinating is how that wealth is actually distributed. Roughly 65%, literally almost 2/3 of Ryan's net worth, is completely frozen inside his home's walls as equity. Only 35% is in liquid or investable assets. And, why does this matter? Because you can't exactly chip off a piece of your drywall to go pay the electric bill. Unless Ryan sells his house, downsizes, or gets into a really complex reverse mortgage, that wealth is stuck. It's wealth on paper, for sure, but it is definitely not income. So if we strip away all that unspendable home equity, we reveal a very stark reality. The actual median retirement account balance for households approaching retirement isn't anywhere near $364,000. It's just $200,000. That's the real number. That is the actual liquid cash Ryan has to work with to fund the rest of his entire life. Let's move to and see how this builds into a real everyday scenario. How does this actually translate into a yearly paycheck? Well, if we apply the standard 4% rule to Ryan's $200,000 in savings, that gives him just $8,000 a year to withdraw. Add in the average single filer Social Security benefit of around $23,500, and Ryan's total actual income in retirement comes out to roughly $31,500 a year. Now let's look at the reality of his actual budget. We have Ryan's fixed retirement income of about $31,500, going head-to-head against the typical spending needed to just maintain his baseline lifestyle, which lands right around $44,500 annually. The gap between those two numbers, it's incredibly alarming. The absolutely crucial point here is that this $13,000 gap is not some one-time mistake. It is a permanent, repeating shortfall. Ryan is literally $13,000 short every single year for the entire span of his retirement. Remember, he is the median earner, the median saver, with the median net worth, and his reward is a mathematically engineered deficit. This is what relying on average actually gets you. Now, your natural instinct, and hey, mine too, is probably to say, well, I'll just out-earn the problem. Let's completely dismantle that idea right now. You can give Ryan a massive 25% raise over his career, and frankly, it barely moves the needle. Why? Because lifestyle creep is undefeated. Suddenly, that premium cable package or a slightly nicer car becomes a necessity, and he just spends more. Small tweaks like bumping his savings to 6% are a total false fix for a gap this massive. To truly understand why those slight little adjustments fail, we have to look at the completely broken baseline we are operating from. Right now, the national average personal savings rate is sitting at a frankly shocking 4.5%. That tiny percentage is the literal engine driving the average American directly into a repeating $13,000 annual deficit.
We really have to abandon these false fixes. Just chasing a higher income without changing your financial habits is basically a mirage. The one single mathematical lever that actually bridges the gap is dramatically increasing your savings rate to 15%. We aren't talking about trying to pick the perfect stock, and we aren't talking about timing the market. We are talking about the percentage of your take-home pay that you deliberately set aside before you ever even see it. And this brilliantly illustrates the true power of that 15% lever. When you consistently hit 15%, it compounds incredibly rapidly over a full career. It structurally outpaces lifestyle creep because, well, you're fundamentally forcing yourself to live on less. It completely turns that terrifying $13,000 shortfall into a comfortable, reliable cushion. And best of all, it's 100% in your control. It literally does not matter what the stock market does today or tomorrow.
Ultimately, the whole thing boils down to this: know your number and control your rate. Ryan's story is mathematical proof that the average path simply wasn't designed to get you across the finish line safely. Social Security isn't a full paycheck, and your house is definitely not a liquid ATM. We have to stop relying on generic milestones and start focusing intensely on the only benchmark that actually matters: your own. Which leaves us with the single most important question you can ask yourself today. What is your real retirement gap, and what is your exact savings rate right now? Don't just look at your net worth on paper. Dig in and look at your liquid shortfall. Calculate that actual number, take absolutely relentless control of your savings rate, and escape the trap of average. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Take this data to heart, and I'll see you in the next one.